But yeah,
There was I think it was Ford Motor Company did a national ad about 1970 that features Holy Rosary.
Really?
The cars, as you're coming from Lake Leelanau on Center Road 6, well, on Front Road, that just came straight.
oh, 645.
Yeah, 645. On top of the hill before you get to the valley, then you go up to Holy Rosary. There's a car there, a Ford something. I think it was 1970. You could see kind of the church in the background.
Wow.
But it was a national ad. All right. Yeah. Probably have to separate these two mics because one is too close to each other. Let's keep it that way.
So you have to start, right?
Yes, yes. Okay, since this is our first meeting of the year, we do not have a chairperson, so I will chair until we get that point. So I'll call this meeting to order. Roll call. Nelson?
Commissioner Bonnet,
Here.
Commissioner Siddis.
Here.
Right, okay. Pledge of allegiance. Charlie, would you like to lead us in the pledge of allegiance?
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. All right, we come to the election of the chairman. And so we'll start with campaign speeches. Anybody like to?
I would like to
speech?
nominate Will Bunnick to be our chair.
Okay, I'll second it.
Okay.
I was going to nominate you.
That's why I was first.
Do you like to give a speech here? No?
No.
Okay, okay, then we'll go for a vote. All those in favor of Mr. Bunnick chairing the meeting, chairing the committee, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Passes unanimously.
All right.
All right, thank you.
Congratulations, Mr. Bunnick, on your honor, and I'll let you take over here.
Thank you. So we have the approval of the minutes from December 7th.
Move to approve the minutes from December 7th as presented.
Support. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same sign. Motion passes. So then we have the agenda. I'll just say there is no deletions or additions, so
Okay. So I'll move to approve the agenda as presented.
I support. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the motion passes 2-0. That brings us to public comment.
Yeah, there's a gentleman listening. If you're still on, you'd like to public comment, you can call us now, sir.
We'll give them a minute, yeah.
All right, well, let me just start off then by officially welcoming Amber. This is her first official meeting as the director. As you know, Paul Hunter retired in April, and I offered the job to Amber, and we agreed on a 6 months interim, which I'm sure will pass quickly, and then we take the interim off of it, assuming we don't scare Amber away. So let me get this phone call. Hi, you calling for public comment? Okay, let me put you on the speaker here, okay? Okay, go ahead, sir. You may want to turn your computer or TV down because there's a delay from the live.
Yeah, I just,
Well,
okay, I just turned it down. I'm watching you on video. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, yes, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. My name's Joe DeForest. I'm a resident of Leelanau Township. And I also represent a nonprofit in the county called Leelanau Energy. We advocate for renewable energy solutions. I just got notice of your meeting only minutes ago, but I see that item number 5 on your agenda is a vehicle replacement plan. And I just wanted to plant a seed of an idea that our organization would be happy to assist with if you take an interest. And that is, as you consider replacing vehicles for the various county, for the workforce at the county, I would hope that you'd consider a transition into electric vehicles. And this has the potential to do 2 things. First of all, the day-to-day cost of an electric vehicle is a tiny amount of what you spend for gasoline in a conventional internal combustion engine. And perhaps more importantly to your budget, the EPA only last week came out with a brand new study comparing the long-term maintenance costs of gasoline vehicles as compared to electrics. And electrics are 40% less over the life of the vehicle critical at the county, and again, this is something my organization of volunteers would be happy to assist with, but certainly some of the tasks we do as a county might apply to this, and there might be a real dollar savings to be considered. So that's really just my point. Again, my name is Joe DeForest. I'm with Leelanau Energy, a nonprofit from the county, and we'd be happy to assist if you find this idea interesting.
Thank you very much for your call.
Thank you.
All right, then seeing no other public comment, we'll move to the action items. So of course we have the review of the budget.
Obviously, last year was a unique year with COVID, and we were not shut down, but greatly reduced there for about 2 months, and construction stopped in the county. But since then, it's been pretty much going full speed. So I thought we'd just take a few minutes, as we always do in these meetings, just review the budget.
Sure.
Amber?
So I've started the budgeting process for next year. I don't have anything finalized yet. Obviously, I'm reviewing numbers from before, and this is my first time getting through that. So it's a totally new process. What I brought today is a copy of the 2021 May summary report. I send that out to you guys every month. I've also started doing a comparison for each month from 2019 to current as a way to show where we were at during COVID and the prior year when things were starting to pick up for us. So currently, if you take a look at things, we are coming up from both our 2019 and 2020 numbers if you look at the comparison sheet.
Yeah, and 2019 was a very busy year, so I'm actually surprised with the price of lumber,
Yeah.
the lack of employees out there, that there's that much work. But I know a lot of it's been pent up. People have been waiting, and interest rates are low. People are just looking forward to getting their projects done.
It looks like almost exactly the same as far as, you know, the totals there.
Yeah.
It's kind of surprising, I think.
Yeah.
It is very surprising.
Yeah.
Although I think the building boom with everyone wanting
Yeah.
to move to a place like Leelanau County
Yeah.
might be driving a little bit of this as well.
So that's just a quick update to let you know. Fortunately, for a lot of long-term planning, we have a healthy fund balance for reasons like last year would happen. Because what people forget, sometimes people look at the fund balance and say, oh my gosh, you had a lot of money, why are you doing this? Well, if the economy dropped and construction stopped, there still are many, many open permits that we still have to service. And that's what happened. I wasn't here in 2008, where there was no backup funds. Construction stopped, money started coming in, and we had to lay off all our inspectors. So we're not going to have that happen again.
Right. Well, and it was at that time that we decided to try to have 1 year's budget in reserve.
Yeah, which
You
is
know.
a smart move.
Yeah. And so that's why, that's what the fund balance is. The purpose is try to get to up to 1 year. I don't know how close we are to that. I think
We're
getting
very
pretty
close.
close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's impressive.
And I mean, I was thinking that as we get there, then we can look at if we can reduce the price,
Mhm.
you know, of permits and things, so that we're not accumulating more than 1 year.
Yeah.
That's just my thought on it.
It's always a fine balance there.
Right.
And we should always review it. We did make some reductions a couple of years ago in some of the fees. We restructured the fees.
Right. I don't think we did reductions.
Yeah, I don't think we
They
did.
did a couple of them. A couple of them they did, but then they raised them in other areas.
Right.
But
Right.
anyway, they were reviewed.
Yeah.
And the core of that is, based on a state formula. So,
Correct.
I mean, there's a base we have to meet with the state, but there's a lot of other things that we just wiggle room.
We did reduce some follow-up inspection fees.
Right. Well,
That
and
we
the
did.
things with the tents and
Yeah.
different things.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a restructuring, I
Yeah.
think, more than
Yeah.
a.
All right.
So do we need to accept the?
No, that's just an update. Most of the items on the agenda are just updates for you, since we haven't met in a while and Amber's new. And so we just thought that's why the agenda is kind of lengthy, but most of these things are just FYIs for you.
Okay. So then that would bring us to permit processing and
Yeah, this is Mr. Klaus here. Turns out Charlie and Bill have a history there for 35 years ago. They're still speaking to each other, so it must be positive, I guess. Mr. Klaus has been a builder for how many years? 45 years. He started off when he was in elementary school, probably building tree forts, I'm guessing. But he has contacted me, and he contacted some commissioners a couple months ago about some thoughts, ideas, suggestions he had in a very professional manner, which I appreciate. And then we met shortly before Paul was about to retire, and we're going through a lot of transition. So I asked Mr. Klaus, can we wait till we get through this transition? And then Amber and I met with you a couple of weeks ago, and I said I'd bring it up to the committee. So here are his thoughts. And I just thought we'd just have a dialogue and let Mr. Klaus kind of give an overview, and then he can go back to work. So, Bill, you want?
Sure.
Here,
I got one right here.
Charlie, do you have it? Okay, so you want to just,
Want me to sit here? Or?
Allison need one? Yeah. Oh, you can sit there. I think we can
Okay.
hear you.
All right.
And some of these issues we did resolve and talk about, so go ahead, Mr. Klaus.
Okay, so one request that I would have is that if without any other permits, such as a land use permit, a well permit, a driveway permit, without any other permits, could we apply for a building permit and submit all the required plans and specs, code compliant drawings, in other words, and pay the full permit fee up front and have the drawings or plans reviewed and hopefully approved, so that when we do bring by the well and septic, the soil erosion, the land use, the driveway permit, all the other permits, we don't have to wait anymore. We can collect a building permit and go to work. And just in a most recent example, we're under contract to build a home for a nice family on property very near here. We signed a contract on February 5th, and we had construction-ready drawings at that time. They were, the client was purchasing a piece of property in this area, and they weren't able to get a recorded copy of the deed until April 20th. So 2 months plus had passed by this time. The municipalities that we bump into, the townships here, will not accept a land use permit application without a recorded copy of the deed showing evidence that the people that we are applying on behalf of actually own the property. And so we wait for that. And at that point, let's see, we're in the process of trying to obtain the well and septic permit. And I think that's the last permit that we need, which I expect to have that next week. So then possibly next week, we would be coming here to apply for a building permit, and that plan review and application is going to take probably a month. So we will probably, I'm guessing, have a building permit in hand by the end of July. And so we go from February 5th to the end of July. And I realize you folks don't have any control over the townships. I understand that. But you do have control over the building code office, and it's up, the comment always comes up, and it hasn't come up here this way, but we don't want to review drawings and make them permit ready if you don't get all your other permits. Well, with the state of Michigan, we can apply when we're building in Manistee County. We apply at the same time we apply for the well and septic or soil erosion or whatever. And typically we have a 48-hour turnaround from a application to a permit from the state of Michigan. It's just real efficient and easy to deal with. And they do not require evidence of any other permits. They know that we're obligated to get them, to obtain them, and we do. And so it's quick and easy. And the other thing is if we can't get the other permits and the home doesn't get built, you folks have a full permit fee that's non-refundable, that is just money. So, I am requesting that somehow, if you could come up with a way to accept the building permit application, do a plan review, have the permit ready, subject to the applicant providing evidence of all the other permits that you require evidence of prior to issuing the formal permit. Years ago, in the 70s and 80s, we could apply for all permits at one time, and it, just went easy, even into the 90s. Today, it's a linear process with the townships. You have to get one permit, provide evidence to get the next, the other thing, if we could find a way to allow and provide for third-party inspectors, so that we can keep things moving. And that would be in the event that the local inspector is not available at that time. And there are very good, very well qualified third-party inspectors that do that as part of their business, most of which are engineers of one sort or another. And then one other thing that seems to be only in Leelanau County, if you can envision in your mind a garage attached to a home, and there's always an overhead door to have vehicle access to the garage. Here in Leelanau County, we're required to run a full foundation footing, not necessarily the wall, but the footing through the overhead door opening. And that's the only place in Michigan we've ever been required to do that. And the difference that it makes is, to us, here in Leelanau County, we're required to have a 42-inch bury on a foundation. So we pour footings that are 6 or 8 inches thick. We pour a 4-foot tall concrete wall. So that footing is down on the bottom, and we can no longer get equipment in or out of that garage through that 16-foot wide door opening, typically. And so it's a lot more beneficial. And the other thing is the concrete serves no purpose down there. It has no weight on it, no load of any sort. And then we have to backfill it with controlled density so that we don't have settlement. And it's just more work for, I don't know why. And so that would be my 3 requests.
It may helpful. Amber, could you just tell us the process we normally use now for the permit process? Because these two are not involved in day-to-day operations. So what is the process that Mr. Klaus just explained? What is the standard procedure here, county, or you can chime in too? But
Yep. So as Mr. Klaus mentioned, all other permits have to be obtained first, ensuring that every other permitting entity is on the same page as us. They've already received those approvals. We don't want to run the risk of approving something that they have not already approved.
Which has happened.
Yes, that has happened.
And when you say all other permits?
I mean, your land use, your health department, your driveway soil erosion.
Zoning could be an
Yeah.
issue, as we know with the long-term lawsuit of
Yeah.
Leelanau Township with Mr. Wyszynski.
So those are obtained, it comes in, it gets entered for review. Our review process right now has 3 elements. There's pre-review where we're doing the verification of those documents. We're looking at the plans and the dimensions. Once that is entered with the description, that gets handed over to either Charlie or John, and they do the code review element. Once that's done, it gets entered for wrap up where the final fee is entered, and then one of the front office staff places a call to the contractor or homeowner, whoever applied, and notifies them that it's ready for pickup. If it's an online permit, they get an email. If there's additional information, they'll get a call and let them know what else we need.
Memory serves me, and it may not be correct, when we were talking about going with the online process, at one time, didn't we talk about separating the building and noting the other permits that were required, but not requiring them? Wasn't there some discussion about that, but then for some reason it wasn't doable?
Well, I think what you, as I remember, just top of my head is, it'd be great if the health department, zoning, everyone use the same software so one could truly apply the whole process online. But that's not the case because not everyone is linked to our software and does the online application. Is that correct?
Yeah, Paul did look into that,
Yeah.
and it would require all of the other entities obtaining the same software. Some of them it's not compatible, others like what they have. For example, with the townships, every township has a different zoning administrator, they have different zoning ordinances, they have different operating system. So it's not anything we could.
So that's why we didn't go forward with that. I
And
just
years
remembered.
ago, again, when I started inspecting in Benson County, the zoning guy was at the next desk over from me. It was at the county, and it was very easy. I mean, there wasn't many projects that didn't come in that we couldn't handle right at the counter the same day. And where things started getting tougher, where Bill's coming from, is with every township having their own rules, having their own, all right, I mean, we have no idea what they want as a building department. We don't know what they're gonna approve or not gonna approve, and it's hard for me to do a plan review on something. And now I've got my time into that, and then it comes back not approved from zoning with whatever changes have gotta take place to make the plans compliant for the zoning. Then I gotta go back and relook at it again. From my standpoint as an inspector, plan reviewer, the two other important permits for me would be the soil erosion and zoning land use. You know, before I spend a lot of time on a drawing and doing a plan review, it's good to know that those are gonna be approved. So it's difficult we've tried to, I've never been able to get a meeting, like pulling all the township people in to try to get on the same page. It's never happened, so.
So the zoning administrators or your planning commissions, which way are
The
you?
zoning,
Zoning.
for the people issuing the land use permits at the township level.
To just talk about
Yeah,
common requirements and
Right.
it's exceptional one. And it's right now, I know in the zoning, I know Tim Cipher has 6 or 7
he's
of the
a good
townships out of 11. And then Steve Patmore has 1 or 2.
At least two.
At least 2. So that's either 8 or 9 of 11 townships. So maybe that's something we can do. See if we can, get the zoning administrators in one room. We did that with internet, and it didn't solve the problems,
No,
but it did get
It's a start. It's a-
dialogue
opens
going.
up a
Well,
dialogue.
we may be more productive having a meeting if we set it up versus, and it's not
Oh.
against our inspectors, but.
No, that's what I was
Yeah,
suggesting. If we
As a county.
do that as a county, that's what I'm suggesting.
Yeah, I think that's what you're saying.
But if they're willing to pay for it, and I know it might cause more time for you, and then if the zoning doesn't approve it, the well system doesn't approve it, the septic system doesn't, and he has to change it, then could they just pay again to have that building redo the plan ahead of time?
Pay another permit fee.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, it would,
but that way it gives them that option.
Yes.
Or does it create problems that,
Does create problems.
okay, because that's what I'm more concerned about.
A system slightly similar to what's being suggested before Paul and I kind of looked at this and tweaked it. Used to be you could drop off anything, no matter what you had, and it would sit on the front counter. There were piles of applications with sticky notes on them for what was needed and not needed. People would forget that they needed to get those things. Then they'd call 2 weeks later and be irate
And
that they didn't have a permit yet.
There were times there was over 100 permit applications sitting on that front counter.
So to
Not
change
completed,
that,
right, partial.
right,
Incomplete.
Yeah,
right.
but why weren't they complete? Because they didn't have their road permit, because they didn't have,
multiple permits that were required.
right.
So they were being allowed to come to us first, not having land use, health department, whatever, just to get it started. That's the big thing with a lot of people is they just want to get it in and get it started, but they don't understand that we can't start anything until we have those other approvals. It causes us to go back and forth multiple times. Things get lost when you do that. Things get attached and not recorded that they got attached. You're looking at it as what we would call a piecemeal system. Things are coming in one at a time, maybe two at a time, and you're looking at it multiple times, and then maybe the front staff's looking at it 2 or 3 times more now. Charlie and John are having to look at it 2 or 3 more times. It adds steps, and there's greater potential for people to forget to
Well,
provide us.
and I
those
tell you,
things.
of the people that call me, most of them were that type of situation where they submitted it and were frustrated that it's been weeks and weeks, and how come we're not pressing? So I would go
Yeah.
check, and almost every time, it's because we're missing documentation. They just dropped it off, and they shifted all the burden to us versus working with the townships or the health department. So most of the time, when I would go talk to whoever was the director, we'd pull up that person's file and turn out, well, it's incomplete.
But usually that's a homeowner, not a contractor.
No,
Or
it's
is it
both,
contractors
yeah.
too?
Yeah, it's both.
Well, I think part of it is, contractors are busy
Right.
and not to demean, some of them overpromise things.
Yeah.
And they have so many projects going on, they're juggling all these projects. And sometimes I just benefit out, they just forget. But then, not all, but some contractors then shift the blame to, well, I can't do anything because I'm waiting for the inspectors and they're so slow at issuing permits. Well, permits can't be issued because we don't have all the information.
And now I'm going back to our online system, since now we're online, and that
Mhm.
might not make a difference, Amber, but, the ability to, once if Bill Klaus drops off a building plan and it's reviewed, Charlie reviews it and he says, okay, this looks good. If you were to issue a building permit, it would be online that you did that. And also, don't we have online still all of the other permits that are required, even though they can't access it? We have it online.
They know what they have to get. right?
Yes.
Yeah, there's a requirement
So-
sheet that's
Yeah.
posted and they have the ability to upload those documents. with it.
So as a document would come in, couldn't we just update it online but what you're saying is it has to be reviewed to see if there's a different requirement. So you could have multiple permit fees issued in this, if we did it that way. I can see that, soil erosion or whomever might alter the drawings and you'd have maybe 2 or 3
Yeah, let's just say
different permit fees.
Steve Patmore or Steve Christensen, after it's submitted, makes changes or modifications,
Then
then
it
they
has
have to
be-
go back and review
Yeah,
it
so it's
again,
not
and
just
maybe-
checking off the box. It's that you have that. It's,
Now, some contractors, like I'm sure Mr. Klaus is very professional and knows the system and is proactive, but unfortunately not everyone's that way.
Go ahead.
So to kind of put this in perspective, my wife, and she has an assistant, is responsible to pull every permit of all sorts that we need, that Eastwood Custom Homes needs to build homes and condos and apartments. And I just added on my calculator, this year so far, she has pulled permits to provide for construction of roughly 137 homes, condos, and apartments. We typically never spend more than, in Grand Traverse County, we never spend more than a month to obtain a building permit. Never. And the reason is that in Grand Traverse County, in Grand Traverse County, we can apply, fill out a building permit application. They have what they call a plan review fee. So if we don't have all of our prerequisite permits, well, septic and all that, we submit our drawings to the building code office. They have a plan review fee. I don't know what it is. My wife gives them that, drops off the building permit application and the plans. They review it and we typically get approved, and it sets in a file that's all approved, waiting for the other permits. When the other permits show up, when my wife delivers them, she leaves with the building permit and the plan review in hand. And it never takes more than a month to obtain all the other permits and the building permit at the same time. My example earlier is, we signed a contract on February 5th, and we have yet to be able to get to apply for a building permit. And when we do, it's going to take another month there. And the other thing is, I hear things being said about if the soil erosion makes it change, if the health department makes it change, but they don't govern the home. The home is governed by this office. The only other governing thing about the home is the township, where they have a minimum square footage, if they do. But that's it. So from a soil erosion or a well and septic or water and sewer perspective, they may slide the home on the same site. They may want to move it 10 or 20 feet somewhere, but the plan review still stands. And we have to comply with side yard setbacks, front and rear yard setbacks from the municipalities. The building code, if you're 10 foot 1 inch or 10 foot 1/8 of an inch from the property line, there's no issue as it relates to fire rating a wall. If you're less than 10, you have to have a fire rated wall, but the municipalities don't let you get that close anyway. So from the simple plan review, and I don't mean not simple, but from the plan review perspective, getting, that would be done if we brought in all the prerequisite permits and a building permit application, or we brought in no prerequisite permits, but a building permit application with drawings. There's no difference in what happens, other than it'll set in a file. The plan review and the building permit will sit in a file until the other permits are brought here. And in this case, these four people, it'd save them a month, and I know you can't govern or control what goes on in other departments, but it would sure be a big benefit to the
contractors, to the owners.
to the
Yes.
owner.
I mean,
to
a month
provide.
is money. If you're not
Yeah.
working at that month, I know.
And
Time's everything.
Right.
And beyond that, if the entirety of the project fails, your permit fees are non-refundable. And if they're not, they should be.
Yeah.
And if we have to change drawings, then you demand another permit fee. I don't see where anybody's got to go back and do more work, not without being paid for it, via another permit fee, if that's necessary.
Charlie, Amber?
Well, I agree with what Bill's saying. I mean, there is time for you guys getting going on the project. But we've got 2 building inspectors. We're averaging 20 building inspections a day right now. I've got 9 inspections today. John took the bulk, but I've still got 9 inspections to go do. And I've been back to work for 1 week and done almost 30 plan reviews plus my inspections. And so having to dig out a plan, even take 10 minutes to go back through. And I have to say that what happens with land use is that a deck gets missed. Either the land use people miss it, or the building permit applicant misses putting it on their land use permit. Then all of a sudden, that deck is over the setbacks. It happens, you know, and it's 1 out of 50, but it does tie things up, and then we're spending time back on that. Again, the only 2 other permits that I feel strongly that we should have some kind of approval on before we do a plan review is that land use and soil erosion. Because it does affect the building. It might, the health department can affect the building if, oh, we missed a bedroom in the basement and we only approved a septic system for 3 bedrooms instead of 4. Everything comes to a halt, we gotta stop, we gotta redo something. We gotta change plans, to either add a bedroom or get rid of a bedroom. So
I
there is.
assume it's fairly rare though, isn't it?
It's-
I'm just guessing.
No, it's pretty common.
Is it?
It happens a lot more than you think, and we deal with it. So I have to set that over here on my desk, wait for that to come back in and babysit it for 2, 3, 4 weeks while I'm doing all the other stuff I'm doing.
And Charlie and I, the whole department as a whole, we're aware that this is a problem. Like it's been mentioned, we're very well aware that time is money. That's the biggest expense you cannot recover. This has been a discussion in our department to work to resolve this for more than a year.
Let me come just from an outside perspective. I don't have a background, but everyone's saying time is critical. That's the issue, right?
Right.
You're swamped with applicants right now. We've had Charlie out, which is a unique situation, but we only have X number of inspectors. And I know they're working full, doing as many as they can every single day. Would it make sense that we have someone, I'm just thinking out loud here, to is dedicated like you were prior to your transition and just focusing on plan reviewer? You did not go out in the field and do the inspections, but you did plan reviews, right?
Yes.
But now
So
you're in a different position. There seems to be a gap there, right?
there's an avenue for that. There's also 2 other things that could resolve this
Yeah.
without having to add another person.
I mean, if we're really that busy and inspectors are swamped, that means there's revenue coming in.
Right.
You transition to a different, we actually are lower in personnel than you're allotted right now.
Right, we have 1.
Because with Paul leaving and we didn't hire anybody new. We just transitioned. So I'm just thinking out loud, are we to the point where we need to look at a personnel kind of to take over the former Amber Weber's responsibility? Because you spent a lot of time doing plan review and that was part of your job, right? Are we at the point where we need to get someone like that?
There's potential for that, but you also have to find somebody that's licensed.
Well, that's a whole
That's a
separate,
big
yeah.
issue.
I mean, that's a separate
Finding people.
thing.
And
But-
Grand Traverse, Grand Traverse has always had a full-time plan review.
Yeah.
And I've preached
This-
that
yeah.
since I started.
And I think that's what, it seems from just the discussion, that's the piece that's missing. The inspectors are busy. Charlie could be out there inspecting 5 days a week, 8 hours a day, not even doing plan reviews, right?
Correct.
Under this current circumstance, right? And so could the other inspectors. So there's a gap now for plan reviews. So Charlie's doing plan reviews, he's not doing inspections.
Correct.
If he's doing inspections, he's not doing plan reviews.
Right.
Seems like that's where the problem is.
The other thing that Grand Traverse County has had, I don't know for how long, but certainly the last 10 years, is they have third-party inspectors
Well, that's my
and
next.
third-party
yeah.
plan reviewers that don't even have an office
Yeah.
at Grand Traverse County. You know,
So tell me how that works. third
We've,
party.
we've already had the discussion about
Yeah,
third
but-
party, as you recall. It's
but tell us how
allowed
that
per
works.
code. As Bill mentioned, anybody that, is licensed to do third party or engineers can do that at the
Do they have to
approval
be
of the.
engineers?
Doesn't have to be engineers. You have to be licensed of some sort.
Plan reviewer,
Yeah, plan reviewer.
state license.
Yeah,
Okay, so there's some qualifications there.
Yes. but you also have to have the approval of the building official before you perform the third party. If we have the ability to do that inspection, then we'll do the inspection.
Right.
If it's a case where Charlie's out sick, John's on vacation, we can't get there, then
Or everyone's just
absolutely,
swamped.
yeah, we would do the third party inspection, but it has to be requested and approval given prior to that being done.
Does that make sense that we look at that?
Oh, yeah, we've allowed
We're
that.
doing it.
Yeah, we're doing it.
By who? Who's doing it?
Mr. Klaus is the only one right
Yeah,
now
they-
doing it
No,
other than
but
commercial.
who's the person, who's doing the third party?
Right now, he's
Apex.
got engineers involved.
Apex Engineering does it. Steve's
Oh,
time
oh,
and his son.
oh, okay, so you as a contractor could have a relationship with a third party.
Oh, I do.
Yeah.
With
Many
it,
of
okay,
them.
that's why like I said, I don't know the system. So you're a builder, they're swamped with
Stuff.
inspection, everything. You have a fully certified licensed engineer or plan reviewer that can go and do the inspection?
Oh, yeah.
Is that how it would work?
He would let us know, I need my inspection tomorrow.
Okay.
And all of a sudden, there's an issue on our end, we can't do that. He'd
Okay.
ask, can I have third party? We would say, yes.
Okay,
And
so
then
it's
he
up
would
to
provide a
you.
report from
It's up
that
to
third
you.
party. Yes,
So if,
And then he pays the extra for that?
Oh, yeah.
yes, that's all done on his end. Yep.
so
Okay.
it's your decision. You can, well, there needs to be an inspection, right? It
Right.
can be
It's
done
both
either by
decisions.
our inspectors, or if we're swamped and don't have the staff for whatever reason, it is possible for a contractor to hire their own third-party
Yes.
inspector, provided they meet the legal requirements.
Yep, and then they provide us a report and Bill's had them send the report in.
So that's what you dropped off for Apex, that's.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
but can we get back then? So if does it usually take a month to get a plan review done?
In the busier time, it may get that far. Right now, we're
Yeah.
about 2 to 2.5 working weeks. What I would like to do is one of the things that's listed here is offer the potential for an expedited permit. So that would mean they would pay an additional fee to have that expedited. That permit would then be looked at within a week and be done. The other thing we're looking at long-term is pulling out elements of plan review that can be done much faster. So your decks, your screen porches, pole barns, garages, those wouldn't go in the typical plan review pile with our new single-family dwellings, our additions, our big remodels. We'd be able to scale back our timeline and get into 2 weeks permanently, or even less. By pulling those out, they would have a default plan review. It's gonna require working on our end, Charlie, myself, and John, to get that up and running, but those people would get their permit in a week, which is going to remove them from what's clogging that system.
Yeah. Well, because what I'm thinking is that if there's a third party that can do plan review, can we contract out to get those done so we get things done in a week? Rather than changing the whole system.
And it's not, I get it, it's not the plan review. I got a 7,000 square foot house on my desk right now that's gonna take me about 3 hours to do. It's getting it to my desk to do the plan review. That's the holdup. It's not the plan review. It's getting it to the plan reviewer where the bottleneck is. Waiting for these other permits, waiting for stuff to come in.
But that's what he's talking about. When he comes in with the last permit, he's saying it takes him a month. At least that's what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
It takes a month for him to get it back, to get approval to
Well,
do his stuff,
Part
you
of
know?
that too is because of the way things have been done here I've been here 7 years, and prior to me even getting here, it's done in the order it comes in, no matter what the project is.
So that's what you're saying
Yes,
about
that's
That's what,
restructuring.
and
this.
that's what
Yes.
we've talked about that. Okay, that was the fair way to do it. This came in number 10 today and stays in number 10 in the pile, but here's a guy with a 24 by 24 garage, has all his stuff, and he's number 10. Because he's waiting for the guy with a 7,000 square foot house to bring us something else in.
Yeah.
Why can't I pull that garage out? Takes me 20 minutes to do a plan review on that garage and get it out the door and off of our desk
Versus 3 hours.
versus 3 hours.
Yeah, I guess I'm not, you're saying a person who's ahead, who doesn't have all their stuff, stays ahead until, even if there's somebody below that has all the information? That doesn't make sense to me.
It's first in, last out. So whatever comes in, if we get 5 applications today, whoever's in here at 9 o'clock, his is gonna get looked at before the guy that comes in at 3 o'clock. So what Charlie is saying is, within that, you could have 3 deck permits that would take 15 minutes to review, and you could have 2 7,000 square foot houses that take 3 hours to look at in the
But
day.
that's an internal decision. You can do that.
Right, and that's what you and I
Right.
have talked about, and
Yeah.
that will eliminate.
There's no reason, I
too.
mean, that's not
I mean,
a
that's just the
policy.
way things were done.
It's
here
just
for the last
standard past
15
practice.
years.
Yes, and taking the time to, you just have to be able to get a set plan review. We performed a class recently, or participated rather, and the individuals that put on the class, they don't go through plan review for some of these things. They've broken them out. They've taken the time to create a specific plan review that they give people. The fees haven't changed on that end either. So the people in the front, I would be able to train them. When this comes in, this is what you charge for this. This is the plan review they get it in a week.
Well, it seems to me, once again, time is a critical factor
Yeah.
here.
It is.
There's no question, everyone in your office is working at maximum capacity, right?
Right.
You are understaffed by your budget. Are we at the point where we need to look at someone that strictly focuses on plan review?
In addition to the good thinking you've put
Yeah,
in place.
I mean, put it all
To make
together.
some nice changes.
Come up
Would that
where-
help it even go further?
Yeah, if I drop off a plan that takes 10 minutes, Charlie, whoever's doing the plan review should have the judgment just to say, okay, here's 5 of them. This one only take me 10 minutes. I can get this one out quickly.
You know, I
While the
commend
one
the
that's 3.5 hours, I'll need to focus on that, obviously,
Right.
more. So that seems like just a common sense internal.
Yeah, so in
I know past
combination,
practice is hard. People are stuck in their ways that this is the way it's always been done.
right, and that's why we're looking at the changes. We're
And
aware
as you-
this is something that.
And as you know, internally, even how difficult it was for people that are longer here just to make the transition to online. We had tremendous opposition internally to going online because that's not the way it's always been done. So I think this is a good,
But I think
But
it's
it-
critical that we try to get those done in a week's time. Within 5 days.
Yeah.
I think that's only fair to contractors. I mean, if it at all possible.
well, the reality is unless you add somebody to do that, you just don't have a staff right now.
Right, if we could add the person as well as these 2 other elements, then you're giving an option to somebody that if they're already spent a month, 3 months with these other elements and they want to be able to get this done, then we offer the ability for them to pay an additional fee to get it done even quicker than.
Well, the reality is you don't even need board approval because you're under your staffing limit.
You could just hire.
We can start the process now to find someone. The key is trying to find the right one.
Right.
Right.
And can we expand the third-party inspections?
Yeah, we've already done that.
Yeah, so, because obviously, if you have third-party doing, that takes time away, that gives more time to our inspectors, right?
Right.
If Bill can have his
Right. If he's willing to pay for
reviewed
it,
Yeah.
for a third party, I don't see a downside.
Nope, there's no downside. I just need to be.
Charlie, right? Am I
notified
missing
in
something?
advance.
No, that's good. Yeah.
I think the changes you're talking about, which is really nice lateral thinking
Mhm.
in terms of how to improve, and then adding an additional staff person,
Yeah.
which you can go ahead and do,
Yeah.
really would be
but
a
you're
nice
not really,
combination.
yeah, sorry.
Go ahead.
But you don't really want to change the system. You want all the permits to come in
Yes. this
and
is-
then get it done.
But if
Okay.
we do some of these other changes, it will speed up the entire
Well, I
process.
think
Yes.
we have to speed it up. I think
Yeah.
that's,
And I think we do need to have a meeting with the zoning administrator.
I think so
Yeah.
too.
And I think if we schedule it, it'd have a different impact than Charlie tries to.
Absolutely.
Nothing against you, but
No.
they're gonna,
No,
so I think it's a
yeah.
really good dialogue. we're
But we
having.
should look to Charlie for what
Right.
we want to ask.
Yeah.
And
And that
Amber.
would just be good. A lot of them don't have basic stuff like the minimum square footage requirements for residential buildings and things like that. When that happened in Benzie County and the townships took over, a lot of those people did call and say, well, we're just gonna follow what the code book is. That's great. Everybody's on the same page. It makes it easy. So there's a lot of room for improvement a little bit across the board.
Yeah.
I know right now Leland Township is looking at exactly that, the square footage on a lot. How
Let me
much
ask you
they're
this,
required.
Amber. When we hired you, you had no experience whatsoever. You kind of learned on the job and you got licensed and so forth, and you're a quick learner. If we could find someone, they could learn the skills to be a plan reviewer just like you did, right? I mean, you have to be a state license, but that's not a complicated, we were able to get you licensed fairly.
Right, but as you and I have dialogue, there's different ways to.
Yeah.
do that. Yes,
Yeah,
you have
but-
to be licensed.
But in theory, we could find someone that's licensed, or we could train maybe one of our people, just like you started off as a support staff person, and you worked your way up and trained. I'm not sure any of them are interested, but can we take, if we can't find someone, can we take one of the 3 support staff people? Just like you kind of transition from being administrative assistant to the chief administrative assistant to plan reviewer to inspector and so forth.
I'm
Because
sure
it is
there's a
difficult to
builder out
find
there that
people.
would
Yeah,
love to get out of the field.
What's that?
There's a builder out there that I'm sure would
Yeah.
love to be a
Or I'm
plan
thinking-
reviewer.
I don't want to say older person, but someone that's a veteran in the field. Usually would have an opening. We get applicants from people that are at the tail end of their careers. When we hired John,
Same
almost
thing.
all of the applicants were people that were contractors and wanted to transition. I mean,
Right.
John Hitchcock came
Yeah, yeah.
from that.
Yeah,
Other people did. Ted was an electrician and everything. And you get a certain point of your life where you want to do other
Right.
things.
And the other option that you're looking at, you do have some sharp individuals working now that you always have had, but I mean, not to imply that others weren't. But I mean, you've got a great new crew. You would have to hire someone to replace
Yeah.
them
Yes.
so that you're not
But I'm
below
saying we
staff.
can
But
do
would be-
that.
That
We
would
don't-
work too.
Like I said, because we're under budget.
Yeah.
Staffing,
Right.
it doesn't even need board approval.
no,
So how about we do this? And I know you have,
put more on your plate.
but how about we get together, come up with a firm plan and meet again in several weeks?
Sounds good.
Because I think
I
it's a
think that'd
really
be
good
great.
dialogue.
Well, I also, though, I do think that I makes total sense about the overhead door.
Yeah,
I mean, I know.
yeah, could you respond to
Let's
that?
let Charlie.
Go ahead.
Well,
Yeah, thank you.
I do make, the code says continuous footings, and I believe it does affect not so much a pole barn or typically a detached garage, it doesn't affect, but on a detached garage, and you don't tie that footing together, there's potential for separate settling, things spreading. The code requires that to be connected. Whether you do it with a step footing, whether you do it with a grade beam. Twice it's only Thursday, and I've had 2 of those this week that I failed, footing inspections, foundations, where they didn't tie that garage door footing across. I have to argue with Bill about the fact if you put that footing in, you bury it, you can drive across it and get equipment in there to get dirt in there. That's not a problem.
Is it true we're the only county that requires that?
No, I required that in Benzie County. I was the building official in 2 townships in Manistee County. I required it in both those townships. I have always required that footing be connected one way or another.
Charlie, have there been any documented cases of failure when it wasn't done that way?
No, I am just going by what the code requires, by state minimums.
But I do understand how you can't drive across it, because I just did my house, and once you put that little wall up, it goes above
But
ground.
you can bury dirt on each side of
Well,
it.
yeah, you have to, but I had to get the ex-contractor back to come in, or the excavator back to bury inside.
Yeah.
The outside we could get done, but I mean, it was
I would
setting the
require
trusses.
engineering if they didn't do that.
But I mean, setting the trusses was a big problem because the excavator hadn't come back to do it. So it created issues for me. But I mean, so I can understand what he's talking about.
So, oh,
Go
sorry.
ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay, so this is state building code, all right? And it does call out for a continuous foundation. When we build where we're governed by the state, we do not put footings or foundation walls underneath of an overhead door. It's pointless. It serves no purpose. We're required to have adequate density before we place our footings. So if it's going to settle on one side, that's just somebody didn't get adequate density. And that's a problem in itself. So, and then the other thing, a real easy fix for this whole thing, and again, it's a state building code, and I'll relate this to where we're governed by a state building inspector, such as Manistee County. We don't have to provide any evidence of any other permit whatsoever. That doesn't mean that we run amok and don't get them. You know, we do obtain all the permits. But we get a building permit when we did the Schmuckel residence recently in Manistee County. We had a building permit before we had the well and septic permit, before we had any other permit. But we still obtained all the permits. We still complied with all the requirements. And I heard the thing, the comment about, somebody gets a permit to build a home and then they put a deck on afterwards and they're over the rear setback. Well, if they didn't have the deck on the drawings, shame on them. We're required to put decks on drawings when there's decks. And if they don't understand zoning adequately, maybe they need to take a little bit of time and research it. Every site plan we do has all the setbacks on it, all of the building placement requirements, everything's there. And I understand that a lot of people with home builder licenses do not operate the way we do. They don't have the staff. And a lot of them are maybe carpenters that are taking on the home building role. So they don't have staff to research. They don't have staff to do what we have to do. And it's frustrating for me to be protected against myself, like that person may need that protection. And we've been building homes. This is our 45th year. We have built over 3,000 homes. We've built in Korea 3 times for the US military. We truly,
Well, the codes usually expand because of some error on some parts. So yeah, that's probably there for 95% of the contractors are professional, do a great job, but
Right.
yeah,
that's why policies or laws are enacted to fit the minority, majority of people. You probably wouldn't even need a code.
well.
Builders like you.
No, we
But there-
certainly
there's a-
do.
But but my point is very professional builders. That's not why all the codes keep
Well,
expanding and growing.
and that's why I have to, agree with Charlie. If that's continuous and there are people where it will go down, it will go up. And so even though I understand what you're saying, the code, the issues that they're talking about, most of them don't apply to you at all. But they do apply to enough people that we can't have 2 separate ways of doing it,
I understand, and I
Yeah.
truly do. But again, I'll come back to, is the only reason that you require all the other permits before issuing a building permit is to watch out for the guy that's mistaken, to try to prevent him from making mistakes? Because it does nothing other than document your file.
I think it's to protect the homeowner too, who's paying for the building to be done.
Well, and as Will just said too, we can't have 2 ways of doing it. We understand, you know what
Understood.
you're doing 100%, but we can't have a way for the people that are brand new at this just coming in to do it, and then the people that have been doing it for 40+ years. It's just too much on our end, but that's why I'm looking to offer the ability for people that have everything, they can pay that expedited permit, get it done ahead of everybody else's.
Let's have some internal dialogue. Let's come up with a plan. You do have some options with extra personnel that we kind of held off, not do all the transition and so forth. Actually, there's some things coming up on the agenda about personnel also. Let's come up, look at the big term picture, talk about the other options that you have, and then let's get back together as a committee.
Let's try to go towards that, the 5 days and get them out there. At least it won't be a month,
Right.
And I think that's, to me, that
That's
would be
huge benefit.
yeah, I think that would be the best, what we should really strive for
Well,
without changing the whole system,
and that's
I think it's
advantage to
doable.
our inspectors too,
Exactly.
so they can really focus on getting the job done and being out there in the field and
Right.
so forth.
Because
I think too, let's keep at the back of our mind though, and I realize this is a system change, but we did talk about the fact that it's the responsibility of the contractor and the homeowner to be sure that they have those
Yeah.
permits. When we originally talked about listing them before we knew we couldn't sync with the other departments and units that are responsible, but that it was their problem if they didn't do it. We're responsible for building. And I think just keeping that in our minds and trying to find a way that we might be able to, over time, resolve this issue, because we talked about it because it is apparent.
Yeah, there's wiggle room there. There's plenty.
The good thing is, the culture in the department is much different than it was in past years. There was a culture that, well, it's always been done this way, we're gonna keep doing it this way.
Yeah.
that culture's gone.
True.
I think it started with Paul, it's still going on with Amber. And I think Paul brought up a great motto that we want to form partnership with the builders.
Yes.
And I think this is another example we want to form partnership because it truly benefits everybody.
Yeah.
So let's have some internal dialogue. Let's get back together, have another committee meeting once we're ready. You do have some flexibility staffing wise that is not tied into the board and any politics, that we can do some staffing things. And so let's just look at all options and get back, and I'll let you know when the meeting is.
Thank you.
Yeah, I really appreciate you.
I know
Thank you
you
very
want to
much.
get back to work,
Yeah.
and
Thank
people
you.
want to contact you.
Yeah.
Because you both
Sorry.
help them up here, so.
Have a great
Yeah,
day.
Thanks for coming in.
Avon was calling.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
So expedient permitting process.
I think we kind of talked about.
Yeah.
I mean, this is all linked.
Yeah, and I can have more information
Yeah.
at the next meeting.
Yeah.
So Amber brought up the point, I didn't even think about this, and because we've had, I think, 2 Construction Board of Appeals meeting in 9 years.
Since I've been here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they don't get per diem or mileage.
They should.
We should, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think it's ever been brought up because it's never been, well, we meet so frequently.
Yeah.
Right.
But after that last meeting, which was really brutal with those people,
Yeah.
with the Mashinsky.
Right.
And actually, Amber brought it up, and I didn't even know were not eligible. So I'd like to bring that to the board with your recommendation that we treat them same as the majority of our
Yes.
committees
I would
and
move
make
it.
them eligible for per diem and mileage.
Yeah, we recommend to the board that we add per diems for and mileage for the Construction Board of Appeals.
I second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
I
Motion
think it's
passes.
just, an oversight because they meet so.
Yeah, so seldom.
infrequently.
Yeah.
We're good. I'm gonna get going too.
Okay, thank you
Thank
very
you,
much.
Jeff.
Thanks.
Okay, so we'll talk about Charlie as item number 10. Just on vehicles, we have, as you know, we purchased some vehicles from the sheriff's department. They're getting up in mileage. At some point, we're gonna have to look at some additional vehicles.
And with the point on going electric, I don't know if speed is an issue, but there's also hybrid. Our last lease we just did almost a year ago now is a hybrid, which gives really good
Mileage.
mileage, yeah, and very low gas usage.
Amber?
Be the step in between.
How many cars are there?
There are 4.
And how many of them are law enforcement?
2.
2?
Yep.
And 2 Steve purchased new, I remember, right?
Yep.
And what's the mileage on all these cars now?
I don't.
Approximately.
Yeah.
Obviously, law enforcement ones are 150,000.
Yeah, those are.
Because
Those
we
are up
purchased
there.
them
Right.
when they did
Right.
recycle.
Well, because they replace them all after about 125,000 miles. Do we want to look at replacing them when they replace? Because they do 3 a year.
That's not a bad point either.
Yeah,
I'm just saying when they get rid of 3 at 125, because at 125, they're still good for another at least 50 or
the ones we've
75,000.
had, we haven't had any major problems, just normal wear and tear, right?
Yeah, I think surprisingly, the only ones we've had issues with are the 2
Yeah,
that were
they're
purchased.
not the,
Yeah.
Not the ones.
Well,
we-
because they really do take good care maintenance wise. I mean, they are changed exactly when they need to, the tires, all of that. So they really are a good deal. And rather than auctioning them off, if we just trade and then auction off the other ones,
what we have done is given a priority for internal departments. Senior services got
Right.
one,
just something to think
soil
about.
Yeah,
conservation
that's, makes
district
sense.
has one,
Yeah,
and emergency management has one.
right. And the only reason they really get rid of them is because it's recommended at high speeds, once they get 125,000 miles, that they shouldn't be running high speeds, in a chase. So that's risk management. But I don't think our inspectors are going to be going
No.
high speed.
So really,
No.
I'm assuming, we just sold this past year's worth of
Right.
vehicles, but I assume they're gonna come back, the sheriff's department with some new vehicles in the 2022
Right.
budget. So there'll be some cars recycled out. So if you're interested, you'd get first priority.
Okay.
And we
Would that
sell
be
them.
soon enough? That's the only thing.
I'll have to look through the records again. I just pulled everything out so I could look at it and didn't have a chance to run any numbers before the meeting. But
Yeah.
I know the guys have expressed it's getting close to that time. They didn't give me a level of
Okay.
urgency.
Do you know, on the two new ones that were purchased, do you know how many miles on them?
I don't.
Okay, well, we can.
Yep, I can look into that.
Yeah, going back to the electric issue, for Amber's department, it makes sense to have fully, the other issue is always charging centers.
Yeah.
Right.
But they wouldn't have the unfortunately, for the sheriff.
No, they were not
Right.
right, the sheriff's.
But I'll tell you, driving mine, hurrying this morning, it has plenty of on a hybrid because you're using
yeah.
straight gas then.
And I believe Cherryland and DTE offer to install charging stations.
They are.
So just something to look at.
So how many miles a day do they drive though?
Well, it kind of also depends on how many inspections they have and if they're on
Yeah.
both sides of the lake back and forth. So it could
Right.
be over 300, it could be over 500.
See, and that would be the problem, because that's what I thought, because I know they go from Empire to, and then
Yeah.
to Suttons Bay, then back to Northport, back to Empire. And if they go 200 miles, they're going to be out of a charge, 200 to 300.
If you have a full electric.
Right.
If
about
you
hybrid.
have a hybrid, you save gas because realize
Right,
that's working
I
on
know.
friction.
Right.
So the more you're stopping and going, the better gas
Yeah,
mileage you
you're
get.
right. We don't want to have forced inspectors come all the way back from Empire to recharge a car.
No,
Right.
Yeah, but yeah, a hybrid may be an option. So we'll just look at all the
Yeah,
options.
yeah.
Okay.
It's worth looking at.
But the trouble with hybrids is you're paying for two systems then. You're paying for the gas and the electric.
yeah, but the gas I don't fill up very often.
No,
I
I
mean,
know, but I'm just saying, when the initial purchase is much more. It might be
They are-
coming down now.
I
but
think they are coming
They're
down.
coming down a lot, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and they're getting more advanced and better. And anyway, it's something we're just going to
Yeah.
look at. Explore.
Okay.
But at some point, we're going to have to get vehicles one way or the
Yeah.
other, where they're law enforcement, where we buy them.
And if they need them to get them,
Yeah.
this year, and we can't wait for the law enforcement, then, let's,
Yeah.
we'll, maybe if you have a
Yeah.
better report for the next meeting.
And
you know.
I'm not aware of any major problems, right? They're just starting to get.
I've had a few that
Yeah.
have gone in for brakes. That's the biggest
Yeah.
thing recently.
Yeah.
And tires.
But that's normal wear and tear.
Yes.
Well, number 6 kind of ties in to what we're talking about, and we do have some options for personnel. We've had at least 2 people express interest, and they actually did a ride-along with our inspectors, and we didn't pay them anything, but people are interested in being part-time inspectors. And so we're looking at that option, that basically on call.
Yeah.
That, for example, we're fortunate that Charlie actually came back as soon as he did. We thought he'd be out much longer.
Yeah, until July.
But we're thinking, oh my gosh, we have a full-time inspector out for 2 months
Right.
in June and July and August.
Mhm.
It'd be nice to have a backup. So we're working that. We have 2 people that have expressed interest. They actually contacted Paul, or Paul contacted.
I think Paul reached out to them when we heard Charlie's first surgery date.
Yeah, we say we got to come up with some, we can't just slow down the whole process.
No, we can't.
So we're looking at that.
They're not licensed individuals, so we'd have to look at,
Yeah.
paying for the license on them, but they're both interested and I don't know to what level. We haven't had an extended conversation about what this would look like. It was just ride along, see what the job is like. Is this even anything I'm interested in?
Are they older retired people or are they younger?
One is.
I don't know
is-
that the one is retired, is an older gentleman.
One is mature, let's say mature.
Yeah,
The other one is,
just starting out. I think maybe
the
he's been in
younger
3 or
part
4
of it.
years.
Okay.
yeah.
Well, because that gives us, might be a pool that when we replace people to look at too. Which would be,
Well, also,
great
if we're
idea.
looking, I just thinking a lot based on this discussion, we're looking at someone doing maybe plan review. This may be. a way
Yeah,
to get
that'd be
someone
perfect,
too,
yeah.
but-
well,
So I just want to let you know.
because it's always been, and I know you're aware of it, a problem with time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if you got a footing, you got to get it in, before they can do anything. Otherwise, their employees can't work.
Well, and right
You
now,
know.
there is no way to prioritize what's not super urgent and what is with materials and everything. Everything is timely right now. So everything is urgent.
Right.
The next topic is, actually, this is something that Steve Hogan did extremely well. we offered classes at no cost to the contractors here. When there were code changes, revision, modification, we had, I don't know how many times we did it, and I think it started before maybe.
Only the one time when I was here. They could have
Okay,
been before me.
It was more than once because I sat in a couple of them. And the feedback from the contractors they were very grateful. We started at 7:30 or 8 o'clock in the morning, provide breakfast for them. It was downstairs. And we try to get them out of here by 10, no later than 10, sometimes 9:30, where some were classes and some were just updates on code changes.
Right, well, they do have to do that every time they upgrade their license, or
Yeah.
renew their license, they need a code class.
Yeah.
You know, and so if it was here, usually you have to go to Traverse or do it online. So if we do it here, I'm sure they would really
Yeah,
appreciate
there's
that.
two different, one is just informational information.
Right.
But we actually talk about is, because those people who teach the class have to be
Yeah,
certified and
you have to
licensed.
have state approval.
But we're saying we're glad to have those people come here, pay them,
Yeah,
so the contractors don't have to drive to, is it Grayling or Gaylor, where most of the classes are?
Ours are, but they're also online right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's something we'd like to do,
Right.
go back to and offer that at no cost to them.
I think it's a
Just
really
service.
great idea.
Yeah.
And if we did, I'd had a phone call from Kathy Garth. She's tied into the same energy group that called in by phone and was talking about light pollution. Not as a cosmetic thing,
Well,
but there are true health issues
Yeah.
that are really related to this, and was wondering if and when there was another meeting, educational meeting for our contractors, if at least information couldn't be
Yeah.
provided, not necessarily a presentation, but information
Yeah.
could be provided, because, whether you're using those white lights, which are really causing a lot of health issues. The health department, we talked about this recently too, not with you, not at a board meeting. But with the yellow lights, the difference and the ability to shield the light and the changes it makes in
but
terms
that's
of
all in
health.
zoning though.
But a lot of contractors, apparently are not aware of this, and when they've been talking with people, and I didn't know do we have information here that contractors could pick up? I mean, they're very willing to provide pamphlets and brochures and things like that. Do we have
could
anything?
leave stuff in the front office.
Yeah, that's what I was
Well,
thinking.
I know this is probably 25 years ago when I was at NMC I was the director of campus services. We actually sponsored a seminar from the Dark Sky Society about that.
Right.
And it was quite educational to the point
Yeah.
where we on campus changed all our the type of lights and how they're pointed. And it really did make a difference, but it also got rid of all light pollution. But
Yeah.
they talked 25 years ago, and I'm sure technology has changed, the type of light bulbs and how much energy they use and the health consequences.
Right. And that's the kind of thing, I just think it'd be
But
good
that
if we're
was
going to do
25 years
this.
ago, so I'm sure it's even more of an issue. Yeah, but that's a good idea.
Well,
But my point is, we'd like to offer educational classes to at no cost to them. So just to update them issues or have questions, or we're going to talk about bringing in the licensed instructors, so the contractors will have to drive here versus somewhere else to
Right.
get their license.
Because they're usually Saturday, Sunday, 2 8-hour classes,
Yeah.
which is really hard.
Mhm.
Well, we're thinking, can we bring someone in and do it on a Tuesday, Wednesday, for those that want to do it?
Right, right.
And either at a reduced fee or we pick up the cost. So just more of
I think it's a
a
good idea.
proactive, working, forming that partnership with the contractors.
Well, and it's good for the county. If they're educated,
Oh, yes, that helps.
it's better building, better everything.
Yes, I agree.
Mhm.
Excellent. Good suggestion. Going
So
back
that's
to
just
that.
one of our long-term goals.
Good.
Okay, short-term need. Next topic, Amber, I'll let you.
It's a blueprint scanner. We have a retention plan in place now, so if a project has been completed for a year or more, everything gets destroyed.
Which is approved by the state of Michigan.
Yes. The unfortunate consequence we've run into is plans are this large and we don't have a way to save those. And it's very important that you have the ability to look back on something special, their commercial projects. So we had been in the short term using the one in the planning department. While Molly Steck was still there, we had access. So currently we don't have access. So looking at, what that's going to cost purchasing, it would be a very handy
There's,
tool.
Laura made copies there.
Oh yeah, Ron had given me.
But why can't you use the plannings anymore?
I don't know what the process is in In-
Well, I think they're using it quite a bit too.
Yeah, I was gonna
And I
say.
think they like,
That's-
as I understand, you like to have your own in your office.
If that's possible.
Because every time you use it, there's a cost associated with it. And we can talk more details, and it's over $2,000, so it needs board approval.
Yeah.
And this one was how much?
I thought Ron sent me the email, it was 35 something maybe, or just under. It's over 3 and over 2.
But you have it in your budget.
I was looking at adding that into my budget based on the conversation we have about vehicles and the site on that. Looking at if that's something you guys would want to see on the budget, if this is something you don't
We're
want
not.
to see.
Say we're gonna do this right away, but just
Yeah,
want to
right.
let you
Do you
know.
have a place where you'd put it?
Yes, I talked to Ron, and the workstation in the back where I was, we would be able to take out, there's a section of the table that's removable, and this would just slide in there, and then that computer would
Okay,
be
'cause that
designated
would,
for
because
it.
it is
And
pretty
there's-
big.
Power there and everything else,
Yep.
there, right? So,
And it needs a computer, so it would be a perfect location for it.
Good.
so we'll get more.
Oh, yeah, it
information.
has $32.50 is the price it has here.
It's on it? Okay. Oh, yes, okay.
You know, and maybe he can go through, the government
Yeah,
thing and get
yeah.
a little better price.
But at our next meeting, we'll probably have a formal recommendation.
It's too bad we can't use the same one. I just don't see the planning department using it that
Well,
much
we should talk to
myself.
them. Like I said.
Yeah.
We're not recommending this right now. We just want to
Okay.
let you
No,
know.
just a dialogue, because
On the
again,
radar.
I'm new to this, I don't know the
Yeah.
policies
This
and
just kinda
procedures
came up.
for.
Yeah.
Amber
I mean-
just came to me a week or two ago
Yeah.
to say, hey, we should look at this.
Okay.
And you
But-
do, you would be doing, or you have in the past done quite a bit, or you will now, given the policy of destroying. The
It
original.
never had been done before, and as, technology advanced, we did things online. This is a need to be able to retain the documents. We
Right.
are asking people if they have an electronic copy to provide that too.
Right.
But there's a lot of people that just prefer paper. They like the feel of that. They like coming in and they don't want to do
Yeah.
electronics.
If you went downstairs in the storage area maybe 2 years ago, they were literally out of space because there's so many.
Yeah.
documents.
We have
Because the
upstairs
state
either.
approved our retention policy, most of it's gone.
But I can see why you would want to keep, and the use is going to be much more, and to have to go into planning each time or schedule with them if they're not using it. It's phone calls and just,
Well, it
it's
may-
more steps.
Yeah, many more people though are going to the electronic, because I mean, now when I get bids, they usually email it to me and I would go down to the office and have them print up a print. So I'd have one,
Mhm.
so I could just email it to them, they would print it, and then I could stop by and just pick it up, but now that they're out of business, it's got to go to Traverse, which is a pain.
So I may be misunderstanding. Is this, the scanner is saving a digital file?
Correct.
Yeah, so it is going electronic.
Yes.
And saving us lots of space downstairs.
A lot of
Yeah.
space.
And upstairs.
Yeah,
And
so
upstairs
that's,
too, yeah.
yeah, no, it makes sense. I mean, otherwise, if you start doing it a lot, then it's a lot of phone calls to planning, and are you
Right.
using it, and can we work it in? And,
Mhm.
it would make sense to have one.
Yeah, and I think it's a great idea, but I just don't think they get used so much that we need two.
Well,
That's,
we'll check.
that's my only question,
Depends on how frequently.
Well, you know how
How
difficult
friendly Trudy is, yeah, that
I
was my
know.
worry.
She just won't share.
Maybe we can ask one of the relatives.
All right, so then we're then to any other items? No?
I don't have anything
Any
else.
discussion items?
Just want to thank Amber for all her efforts the last couple of months. Transition is always a challenge, even when they're positive transition and so forth. And, you always have issues like with Mr. Klaus, who was very professional here.
Yeah.
But not everyone takes that approach. Some people like to be a little more vocal. And I told her
Belligerent.
she's actually, her job and her pay salary is contingent on resolving the Mr. Wyszynski case.
I'm highly motivated.
Aren't we all with that? one?
Yeah.
He is, I think he read my update, he's taking it, not just us, the township and the Michigan Construction Codes Appeal to the Supreme Court. And another lawsuit's threatening, now he's upset with the Michigan Code Appeals. Construction boards.
Well, at least he's focusing on a different target,
Well,
a little bit more.
in all seriousness, it was interesting because I watched those meetings and I think you did too. And you think at the state level, they'd be very professional, all the rules and guidelines, but really, they're all contractors. So what they were struggling with was the same thing that our Leelanau County Board of Construction people were struggling, because here's this guy with these completely wild accusations. And they're like, what do we do with these?
What do you do with
It
him?
really was almost verbatim of what happened with our construction codes board. They were just, I mean, these are professional people working in the field who just happen to be appointed to the state level. They're not state bureaucrats. They're not attorneys. They don't know the legal consequences. It was really interesting watching them struggle how to respond to him. Fortunately, the second meeting they had, there was an attorney there from the state attorney general's office, and there was an attorney there from the state construction codes office. But even those members on that board, you could tell they were really struggling. And Mr. Ziske made all these wild accusations. And, you know, they don't know if they're accurate or
Yeah.
not. And that's why if you see bills from our attorney, that's why, because it really is helpful to have Matt Zielinski
Yeah, I
there.
wouldn't want to be doing this without Matt.
Thank
It
goodness.
really is frustrating, but I think we're at the end. I don't know what he's gonna do next, but you never. But
Well, if there's any public comment, please call 256-8109, 256-8109. Are there any board comments?
I brought up the only thing I was going to, and that was the light pollution, the dark skies. So we've chatted about that, and I'll just simply add thank you to Amber, who has jumped in and is doing a great job. Thank you.
All right, well, we are adjourned.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you, Amber.
good dialogue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You wanna press that button so then